here in our time energetically. Avoiding offensive tyrannical enemies. Vitalizing opposition to equity. Visualizing overthrowing the elected. Vaccinating order through epidemics. It all starts with community. Him and her, them and them, you and me. Unity. No party of mine is ever one-sided. But the line outside is so divided. It's my right to be a recluse in the booth. Let loose all my...
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the continuing Election 2020 live stream. I am very fortunate to be... my name's your friendly neighborhood, Kyle Hudson, and I am lucky enough to be joined by another one of our county commissioners, Commissioner Marian Moskowitz. How are you, Marian?
I'm great. How are you, Kyle?
I'm doing great. Now,
good.
I just want to say, going into today, I think a lot of people were very anxious, but I think Chester County handled things very, very well. You must have been a big part of that. Like, what was the process of preparing for this unprecedented election?
Well, first, I have to give kudos to our staff. They are just incredible. And, they have been through a presidential election before, so that helped. Josh and I were new to all of this. They were really very good at helping us put everything down and plan. And so we were able to do things like make sure that we got the equipment that would help move Chester County forward and be able to count all these mail-in and absentee ballots. And so we've been meeting as a Board of Elections. I'm chair of the Board of Elections. And so we've been meeting to make decisions about polling places and all the things that go into an election. I had no idea all the little details you have to learn. But it's been great fun. I've learned so much. It's been a great process.
Well, speaking of process, you've been doing politics for a little while now, but what originally got you involved, and then what kept you going because I know, it hasn't always been this great for Democrats around here. So, what kept you going? First off, part A, how did you get involved? And then part B, what kept you going?
Okay. So I would say my life as a somebody that was involved in the committee would go in and out a bit. So back 30 years ago, the very first time I worked at a precinct was for Andy Dinneman. He called me and he asked me to work at the polls in Tredyffrin. And it was so ironic because I was the only Democrat on our side. And on the other side were all these Republicans. And I grew up in Philadelphia. It was the complete opposite as I was growing up. So that was when it really hit me that, whoa, this is a different world for me. And over the years, I worked the polls whenever I could. I was involved in that way. But there, back 30 years ago, the party wasn't as welcoming as it is today. And so it was very hard to become part of the group for some reason. And I think it's because they were trying to find their way, but it was a small group as well. So it was a different time. And then and I continued to work on and off over these 30 years at the polls. But then in 2013, I was asked to run for state legislature here in Melissa Schusterman's district. And I said no a million times until I finally said yes. My son said, you're always complaining. You're complaining all the time about Harrisburg. Do something, and he made me feel so guilty that I ran. And it was a really great experience. I lost, not by much to my surprise, but I lost. But the experience really got me involved in politics. And I remained involved since then, helping candidates when I could. I raised money for the state legislatures back in 2016. I just helped wherever I could for the last number of years. And then when the county commissioner position became the possibility that we could take 2 seats, I decided to run for that. I wanted somebody that had business experience. We'd never had anybody in the commissioner's office with business experience. And so I thought, how nice to have a Democrat with business experience in the county. So I ran. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of that experience, this is your first year on the job. You got elected last year, and this is one heck of a year to start your job running a county. Now, uh, with coronavirus, I mean, I don't want to make light of it. With coronavirus, you know, a lot happened very quickly. And what do you feel? I mean, because you and Josh were right in the heart of it. Um, and I personally, I mean, I talk to my wife all the time. Like, I felt we were so lucky to have Democratic leadership, like, straight up the board, right? Like, our mayor is a Democrat. Our county commissioners are Democrats, 2-1. Our governor is a Democrat. Like, I personally found that very reassuring, right? What about you? Like, what do you think? I mean, it kind of was like the definition of why elections matter, right? But as someone who was in there, like, what do you think specifically having Democratic leadership at a moment of crisis like that? Like, what kind of a difference do you think you and Josh were able to make?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So to begin with, this county as a whole is a very generous, warm, and caring county. We have more nonprofits here than anywhere I've ever seen. So you have to put it in perspective. But I think the thing that we were able to bring was not, for me personally, I was able to bring my business experience, which when you're dealing with such situations, such as a crisis, or, you have to change manufacturers very quickly because you have an issue, you've got to learn how to move on a dime. And I think that helped me just deal with the whole process of these crises. But for Josh and I, there are a lot of things that we felt were important when we ran, caring about community as much as we do, the homeless, those struggling with addiction and mental health issues. Well, those are things that when you have a situation like crisis, they rise to the top, right? Because those are the most vulnerable of the population. And those are where the sickness can occur even more. The long-term care facilities were one big clump for sure. But we've had issues with the homeless shelters. It's been very difficult for those shelters to carry on and try to protect the people. You've had domestic abuse situations because people were confined, and unlike normal times when a spouse can get out, they're there, and you can't really protect them. So we were trying to put things in place for those children that go through the process of making sure that they have social workers and they come visit them to make sure that they're in healthy environments. Those kind of things weren't happening for a while. So those were things that were important that we were trying to make sure occurred. A lot of the social issues, but also dealing with the crisis itself, the business community struggling so much, and just watching all the divisiveness in the community and the anger, and just trying to help quell that a little bit, just as a human being. I mean, I don't think that's Democrat. I don't think it's Republican. I think it's just people. And, maybe we were put here at a moment in time when the county needed us most. But I do think that a lot of what we've been able to do is just care. We care for people. And I'm not saying the Republicans wouldn't. I'm just saying that we came into this knowing that those are things that were important to us. Affordable housing, transportation for people that have problems. And so all of that becomes an even greater crisis when you're dealing with something like COVID.
And what would you say? What do you say to those folks out there? You're steering the ship. You've got a hand on the wheel. To folks out there that are struggling right now, what do you say to them?
Let us know what you need. We have great aging services, human resources. We have so much available. Text me, call me. My phone, people have my phone number. I don't care. If there's a way I can help you, I would love to do it. And I know Josh feels the same way. And we're available. You can find us. Here I am here.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I'll admit, like, to sometimes, like a county commissioner, right? It seems, whoa, like you're so much right higher, but really you
No.
are. I mean, I know you. I met you. Like, You're a very down to earth person, but you have to understand, like when you have a title like that, it can be intimidating, right? It can be intimidating for people to want to reach out. But I want to assure you, if you're one of those folks that I know, Marian, I know Josh, I know they care about everyone in this community, not just Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Greens, Libertarians, everybody.
Everybody.
And I really appreciate how you
Everybody.
govern with that philosophy.
Thank you.
This next year is going to be very difficult. What are your priorities and going into next year? Let's say we have a best case scenario tonight, things work out. What do you see the next year going, and what do you think as a community we need to start working towards to help those people that are suffering the most?
So I do think that once Joe Biden wins, I'm very, very positive. Um, the rhetoric, I hope, will come down, and that's going to take some work, right? Uh, but the things that have risen during the last couple years are things that we really have to start addressing, right? Systemic racism, you have to start locally. You need to start locally. This is a national level, but it's also locally, right? So we have to do things to bring our community together. I really want to focus on having people finding a way where Republicans and Democrats can get back to the way we used to be, right? You can argue about politics, that's fine, but it's not a hate thing. It's not a mean-spirited thing. It's not a I hate you because you're another party. That has to end, because that divisiveness, you can see it now and we can all feel it in our hearts. It has hurt us tremendously. It's hurt the country, and it's hurt each and every one of us. And so I really want to work on doing something related to that in the community, try to bring the community back together. We really are far apart.
Yeah, I mean, and as a Democrat, I think that is the most important thing we need to do is constantly recognize, like, if you're a progressive, right? And I identify as a progressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to say that you're open-minded to other, to other, ethnicities, other religions, right? And you're open to that. Well, you also have to be open to other forms of thought. You don't have to agree with it, but you have to be open to it. And that is the thing I really like about the Chester County Democrats, is that seems to be a leadership philosophy across the board, where, we recognize that these people are our neighbors. They're not our enemies. And anyone that tells you otherwise, they're the one that's probably the enemy, right? And so, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. I know you're probably, you've been probably working harder than almost anyone I've interviewed today. So I don't want to take up any more of your time. But if there is something you'd like to say in closing, we've all gone through this. You're probably the highest ranking person we've interviewed on the show today, besides Josh. What do you say to people out there, that might be at home stressing about, the results, and, these next couple of days are going to be really tough? What do you want to say to them?
Take a deep breath. Have a glass of wine, have some coffee, whatever, not coffee, something, to relax you. Last night, I was so stressed that I watched this new, I forget the name of it now, this new series like it come out about a chess player, this woman chess player. And I think that we can't be watching the news 24/7 because it's not good for us. We need to watch something funny. I like to watch old Humphrey Bogart movies. I really enjoy those. And I like The Bourne Identity. I watch a lot of those. But I think it's just, you need to put your mind somewhere else, because the news will be the news and it will be there in an hour or 6 hours, right? We're not going to know the results of this election truly for a couple of days, unless Florida comes in tonight and we're waiting to see that or something. But no matter what, we are people and we will get through it. And we live in the greatest country in the world. And this country will survive. We have a lot of pains that we're dealing with now. But, they're also showing us opportunities to fix those things, opportunities to strengthen our community. And we found a lot of the weaknesses in the community that we didn't think we had. So we have a lot of work to do. So people just get some rest, and we're going to wake up and we will deal with whatever comes our way. We'll just deal with it. Yeah.
Well, Commissioner Moskowitz, I look forward to working with you over the next 4 years, and hopefully
It'll be
far beyond
fun.
that. But thank you
Thank
for your time.
you.
Thank you for all your work. Have a good night. And I
Thanks
guess
for
I'll see you on
having
the other
me.
side. All right.
Bye.